In nature, everything runs its course. The predator hunts and the prey is hunted. It's always been this way, and every animal knows its place on the food chain. But sometimes there are situations when an animal behaves differently, completely going against nature. How is one to react to such strange behavior? Today, we will tell you an amazing story about how a wild bear stumbled upon an elderly man who was alone on the banks of the Lena River in the Far East. He would have been such an easy victim, but the bear did not treat him as such. The story is about how the man managed to get away from the brown beast unharmed, and it is truly surprising in its simplicity. Many years before this happened, in the Arctic Ocean, a young sailor named Stephen was working on a fishing vessel. The weather was clear and there was not a cloud in the sky, but a huge storm appeared out of nowhere. The waves were so strong that the young man could not stay on deck and he was thrown into the icy water. He tried in vain to swim back to the boat, but it just kept drifting further and further away. Finally, his comrades became aware of what had happened and threw him a rope. Stephen grabbed the rope and pulled himself to the boat, then was lifted back on board. After warming up and drinking some tea, Stephen came to the realization that he couldn't hear anything. Icy water had poured into his ears, which caused him to completely lose his hearing. He was given a hearing aid, but Stephen often forgot to wear it as it was uncomfortable. Many years passed, and Stephen got married and moved with his wife to the Far East to a remote village where he intended to spend his retirement years enjoying the nature and quiet. Stephen always had a passion for fishing, and this continued well into his old age. Every Sunday, he got up early and took a fishing rod to the Lena River to catch fish, from which his wife would make delicious meals. One day, as usual, Stephen got up early, took some bread for bait, grabbed his fishing rod, and quietly left the house so as not to wake his wife. Halfway to his destination, he realized that he had forgotten his hearing aid yet again, but he didn't want to turn back, so he resumed his journey. Having arrived at his usual place, the man sat down on his folding chair, placed a bucket of water nearby for the caught fish, and threw a crumb of bread into the water. It didn't take long to catch a fish, and Stephen pulled it out and then carefully placed it into the bucket behind him. The weather was beautiful, the water was calm, and there were a lot of fish. One by one, the man pulled fish from the river, rejoicing at such a successful catch and imagining the delicious meals his wife would make. Several hours passed. The sun was high, it was getting hot, and the fish were beginning to bite less and less. Deciding that it was enough for today, Stephen pulled his line in one last time. To his surprise, there was yet another fish attached, and this time it was so big that he doubted whether it would even fit in his bucket. Taking the fish in both hands, he turned around in an attempt to place it in the bucket, but then he froze in terror, dropping the fish back into the river. Sitting right behind him was a huge brown bear, slowly eating the fish from the bucket with pleasure. Judging by the fact that there was hardly any fish left, Stephen realized that the bear had likely been sitting there for a long time, just watching him fish with interest. Stephen was afraid to move. The bear looked straight at him while he proceeded to take yet another fish from the bucket. The man carefully began to step back away from the bear. The beast didn't follow. He just watched the man and continued to gobble up his catch. When Stephen managed to put enough distance between himself and the bear, he turned and ran away as fast as he could. The bear did not chase him, but continued his meal. Running home, barely able to catch his breath, Stephen began to tell his wife what had just happened to him. Just imagine an unsuspecting person was putting fish in a bucket just a couple of inches away from a huge bear paw. And the bear, in turn, apparently so pleased by the easy meal, just decided to profit from the man's labor. Having recovered a little, Stephen became worried about leaving all his equipment on the shore. How would he fish now? But his wife only replied that the most important thing was that he came back from that shore alive today. After all, the bear could have easily attacked him, but for some strange reason chose not to, and instead settled down behind him and quietly ate his fish. Perhaps there was no fun in hunting prey that didn't even know he was being hunted. Or maybe he was just pleased by the convenient meal in the bucket and didn't even notice the man. What do you think? Why did the bear not attack the man? Let us know in the comments below.